I'll let you kind of set the scene for us this evening. Why are we here tonight?
Okay, tonight we're celebrating a historic event that happened 50 years ago. 50 years ago, we put into service an advanced support transport unit. It was the first of its kind in the DC, Maryland, Virginia area, and it delivered advanced care to patients who were in more need than we could give with basic life support. It was very instrumental in saving a lot of lives. I'm going to introduce Mary Beth Micus, who was very instrumental in starting this. She's got a long history of working. She was a nurse and had the ability to start the Heartmobile, and then it progressed on to the medic unit. And Eve Hill is one of our current paramedics, fairly new but extremely active in the rescue squad. She can probably give you a better idea of what it's like today using more technology and more equipment than we had 50 years ago. Mary Ann Viverette here was the very first female member to join the Bethesda Rescue Squad, and she also was the very first volunteer female in Montgomery County as well. So that's why we're here, to celebrate the milestone of the first female member and also the very first advanced life support unit. We have the very newest one sitting right here. That's the newest one. It's almost like a mobile hospital on wheels. And this is where we came from. This is a 1972 Cadillac ambulance. At the time, it was state of the art, but you can see there's not much room. And as we developed and needed more equipment, it could not fit there, so we went to the larger units. But I will defer to these three ladies.
Well, we're going to start with you, and can I get your name and title again, and then spelling your name first?
Mary Beth Micus, and at the time I was the EMS officer for the Montgomery County Department of Fire Rescue.
All right, talk a bit about what it was getting this ready to go, getting the teams ready to go. Like, take us back.
Well, this really started from a pilot program the Heart Association ran here in the county. We had a huge white Chevy step van, and we had nurses staff it, and we'd go out and respond to heart attack calls. And we soon realized that the people, the firefighters, the rescue squad personnel, were much more attuned to taking advanced life support care out to the people where they were stricken than we as nurses were at the time. So we went and developed a program called, at that time it was called the Cardiac Rescue Technician Program. And the first three classes we had were made up of just members from the Wheaton Rescue Squad and the Bethesda Chevy Chase Rescue Squad. And they were also the first two places that we put medic units into service here in the county.
And what is it like seeing where we've come from, where you've been?
Well, just the practice that paramedics can do nowadays there's a world difference. Although back then they were very advanced, the paramedics were able to do procedures that a lot of nurses weren't able to do inside a hospital, and here they were doing it outside the hospital, and they did it very well too.
I think that's one thing people had to realize. Before this, it was a lot different. Life was different.
Before this, it was just basic first aid, and you would scoop patients up and just rush them to the hospital. Once we had these medic units, people who were having heart attacks, who were trauma patients, we could stabilize them and then transport them to the hospital, and they had a much better chance of survival.
And, I'm going to ask you now, your name and your title, and we'll start there, and then I'll...
My name's Eve Hill. I've been at the Rescue Squad since 2018, and I'm a nationally registered paramedic.
All right, Eve, talk about looking at this over here, and where what are your thoughts about the history and where it's come?
I think it's pretty cool to get the opportunity to be a part of this and see what the medics before me were working with. Obviously, that vehicle's my size, but I can't imagine some of these bigger guys riding in that, and feel very lucky to have spent my whole career here at the squad on one of these big mobile hospitals we got.
Talk a bit about what got you into this and brought you in.
Well, I started when I was 16 years old, actually, and was volunteering as a junior member in high school. And I just fell in love with the culture here at the Rescue Squad and with EMS in general. So I went ahead and became an advanced life support provider at 19 years old and was the youngest paramedic in the county for a little while. And then I loved the field so much I went on and became a registered nurse as well.
You know, I want to get your reaction to where it comes to women in the field, because we were discussing, before this about how it was all men in the first time this equipment was out. Talk a bit about where we've come there as well.
I'm very lucky to have always worked on a crew that's had a lot of women. I've always had great female role models to look up to, people here at the squad and in the county. It's pretty cool to get to stand next to people who trailblaze the way to make it possible for me to be here today.
Awesome. And let's talk to another trailblazer. Yeah, can I get your name and title?
Marianne Viverette.
All right, talk about your history.
So I was just really lucky back in '74. I got to know a few of the guys from the squad, and it was an all-male organization at the time, and there were people that wanted to join, and they said, "Hey, Marianne, come on, right? You're capable." I was physically able to lift the stretchers, and I was interested in the work, so I joined. And I must tell you, I mean, even though considered a trailblazer, I was nothing but welcomed here. Everyone was just so welcoming and willing to train. This lady here was just an icon to me. I mean, they were doing the important. I was the EMT that was basically scooping people up and taking them to the hospital. But looking back at this ambulance, it just brings back great memories. It was a great organization then, and it's an even better one now. And I was just pleased to have a small part in the beginning of it.
I'll ask you too. Seeing ambulance teams that are paramedic teams fully woman teams. That obviously wasn't the case back then. Talk about what it's been like for you to see this advancement.
So, growing up in the Washington, D.C. area and having a career in Washington, D.C., I ended up in law enforcement, became the chief of police in Gaithersburg. But it was a very welcoming area for women. Once we got started, we had female police chiefs. We had 4 of them at one time. We had Mary Beth as a chief, and even though it seems like it was different because women were new to it, but Montgomery County and this squad really welcomed us, and it never felt like an uncomfortable situation. I've traveled to other parts of the country where people have never met a female officer, never met a female chief of police. So we were just very fortunate to grow up in this environment in a welcoming and open county.
And just seeing where the county's come. I didn't get to ask you that. Talk a bit about, seeing where things have come in the county when it comes to equipment and just to, how the department's put together.
So the first thing that comes to mind is safety. I remember riding on the back of Rescue 19, holding the pole, and people driving down Burdette Road, bouncing around, and I'm just trying to keep my balance on. And now I see, everyone has headphones, and it's a much safer environment. We did that with police and, of course, fire and rescue. They're much safer now than they were. So that's the thing that comes to mind the most. But the progression and to see young women like this, I'm so jealous that I can't be young again and start my career all over and do it another way.
And I did get to ask you too. Just seeing, even just throughout the country, but here as well. All women teams and that sort of thing. What has it been like for you to see that?
Well, it's really been terrific. I'm at the point now where I train people to be fire chiefs, and to see the women coming through in the classes is really very, very exciting for me to see that, because years ago I never even thought I could be a fire chief, and I was fire chief in Prince William County, and again went there, and they were very welcoming and used to women in positions of authority.
And I will ask you all too. As we sit here on the 50th anniversary, what are your last thoughts? As you talk about it, you think back and reminisce.
Well, first of all, I'm very proud that Montgomery County is recognizing this, because throughout the years, Montgomery County has been ahead of a lot of jurisdictions and things that they've been innovative on. So this program in itself was one of the first in the country, not only in this area. And so I'm very proud that the county's getting the recognition it finally deserves. And to see now that the young paramedics are able to even hang blood out in the field, which was something that we just did in hospitals. It was all unheard of. 50 years ago, if you'd have told somebody that a paramedic could hang blood in the field, they would have laughed at you. And they're doing things now that we never imagined.
How about for you, looking back? And I know you weren't around for the 50 years, but what are your thoughts, as you celebrate this history?
It's pretty amazing to stand next to people who were part of making this possible, and I couldn't agree more. The county's been very progressive with our medical protocol, and I'm really proud to work in a county where we're giving blood, we're advancing our protocol to follow evidence-based practice, and really saving a lot of lives that way. So looking back where we came from, we've definitely come a long way.
Any final thoughts for you as you look back?
Just very proud that I was a very small part of a great organization that's really kept a great reputation, and they're nationally known, and they've kept it all these years. So I'm very proud to know them, and I'm very honored to just be a small part of it.
I love it. Thank you all so much. Now, would anybody want to demonstrate where we've come equipment-wise?
Go ahead.
I don't know if she can demonstrate that one. She might be.
I can't speak much for this one. This one is, to me, about what we would see in an old medical show, but this is our current LifePak 15. It's pretty impressive piece of equipment. We can do defibrillation, cardiac pacing, synchronized cardioversion, all through this machine, as well as monitor blood pressures, end tidal, O2 saturation, and EKG monitoring as well to help us detect heart attacks in the field prior to transporting into the hospital.
Wow. And talk about, that's so cool, but talk a bit about looking at this here. Can anybody demonstrate how this one works? Anybody remember?
No.
I mean, I'm not sure this one still turns on.
Well, it comes out, it just...
This one just monitors the heart and defibrillates. That gives you a lot of other pertinent vital signs. And one thing we didn't mention was when we first started the paramedic program, we were training them in 160 hours. Now, what is the training?
It's well over 2,000 hours. I went through the county program in 2021, and it was at that time, about a year-long program to become a practicing paramedic, and they've now expanded the program to add a lot more into it, and from what I've heard, it's nearly a 2-year program now. So the training and the level of competence that we expect from our paramedics here in the county is very high.
And this box is a main part of how you get to save lives out there.
Absolutely. This box is kind of like, for our hospital-based providers out there, it's like a monitor that you would see in the ICU. It can do more than what you would expect there. It can monitor all those vital signs as well as provide life-saving interventions like defibrillation, pacing, cardioversion, all that good stuff. So I don't know what we'd be doing as medics without our monitors.
They probably don't want to go back to that thing, right?
No.